Always remember, the opinion you follow should be your own. Just consider the things stated here to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online.
Happy Friday, Mike.
Happy Friday, Phil, and to everybody else out in Listenerville. Welcome to another episode of Random Waypoints. I want to say something, Phil. Hopefully this is not catching you off guard, but I want to mention we record for you guys out there that are not aware of this. We record on Thursdays, and today is the anniversary of 9/11. So I want to mention that. In particular, I want to shout out to all of the people, obviously, that were lost 24 years ago. And in my case, a buddy of mine, Rob Noonan, shout out to you up there, man. He was one of my Land Rover buddies. He unfortunately died on the 105th floor of the North Tower. Yeah, he worked for Cantor Fitzgerald. So being from the greater New York area, unfortunately, most of us that lived in that vicinity kind of know somebody personally that was involved in 9/11. So shout out once again to everybody that was involved in that. And before we start today's podcast, one of my favorite quotes that I've seen going around on social media is the best way to honor those that are lost on 9/11 is to be the people that we were on 9/12. And that's going to come into very clear view here on the podcast today, I think.
Well, Mike, I'm going to pretty much reiterate your words. No one personal to me did I have a loss of, but I moved to New York a few months afterwards, and it was no way that you could not feel what happened, not just because you pretty much couldn't move around without police. There was barricades everywhere. If you left the city or what they call the island and back, getting across those bridges and through the tunnels, it was like being in a third world. During the time I was in New York, you just could not help but eventually become friends with somebody who had a mother, a brother, a sister, a father who was involved in law enforcement, fire, and so on. It's so interconnected, and even if you don't have somebody that you personally knew, that, like you said, September 12th, we were all Americans. We are all family, whether we want to recognize it or not. And I'll never forget, and I hope we never forget. And I'm not talking about the violent payback portion of never forget. It polices my actions, the things I say, and the things that I do because I don't want to incite violence, which is something I think we'll talk about later.
Absolutely, Phil.
Mike, NATO fighter jets scrambled to shoot down Russian drones that crossed into Poland. This is the first time the alliance has had to directly confront a Russian threat inside NATO airspace, with Polish officials calling it a deliberate provocation and fears of the war spilling over. Mike, what's your take? Does this drone shoot down mark a dangerous new phase for NATO, or is it just a warning shot that Russia is testing boundaries?
Wow. I mean, I don't think people are taking this serious enough, to be honest with you. I think that this is definitely Russia testing boundaries, very much like I use the example of the Jurassic Park test and the dinosaurs test and the fence theory in past podcasts. I think that Russia is I mean, for those of you that are geographically challenged, if you look at a map, okay, and you look at Poland, particularly where Warsaw is, and I remember traveling through there. I drove through I came from Germany and went up through Poland and looped around in any case. But if you look at the war between Russia and Ukraine and you look at the borders, Poland is not really there at all, okay? Poland is off to your left, okay? And there's another country involved there, which I'm drawing a blank. I mean, it's a Russian puppet government, anyways. I'm drawing a blank of what the name of it is right this second. But in any case,
Belgium,
No,
Austria,
no. On the
where?
eastern side there. Eastern side of Poland is in between
Prague, Vienna.
in between Ukraine and Russia. But in any case, I mean, to fly drones towards Poland, particularly as far in as Warsaw, which is not on the border, is not done by accident.
Agreed.
Hard to believe, right? So
Mhm.
this is this would be considered a provocation for sure. I mean, I don't think you can look at it any other way. I think that the fact that Poland shot them down and they're a NATO ally is significant. And maybe it's because there are other news stories also going on right now that's maybe not the focus as much, but certainly I think it's a big deal. And I think it proves a little bit of what you and I were talking about last week on the podcast, that the there's very little chance of a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia right now. I don't think Russia's on board with that. I think Russia was yanking Trump's chain in Alaska, and I don't think he's ready to settle for any kind of peace deal unless he gets every single thing that he wants, which clearly I don't think anybody's going to agree to.
I agree with you, bro. I haven't come up with a conspiracy theory on this one yet,
I
bro.
was waiting for that.
But I have looked at the map like what you're talking about. And the thing that strikes me about Poland is it's like on the complete other side of the Ukraine. It's no reason other than, and this is just my guess, strategically, Poland has a coast, and that coast is on the Baltic Sea.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at Russia on that side of the country, they are landlocked. They don't have access to the coast. So this may be a strategic thing if we end up having a World War III, a fight with the United States, China, or whoever. So just looking at it, my guess, it looks like it might even be beyond strategic, beyond the Ukraine war.
By the way, the country is Belarus. I'm looking at a map here. I finally was like, had to pull that up. So you've got Poland, you've got Belarus to the east of it, and then you've got Russia, and you've got Ukraine to the south, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia to the north. So Russia's not really, although there is a small section of land that is controlled by Russia that's just to the north of Poland, which is cut off from the mainland Russia. But I don't think, and I don't know. I mean, it's possible that's where the drones came from. I don't really know.
Yeah, you could come up with an excuse for flying over Belarus, but
Right. Which, by the way, they have the right to because they've been granted that right because that's an ally of Russia's,
Mhm.
and it's in their pocket.
I also think that this is possibly a strategy that goes deeper than Russia. This may not even be Russia's idea. This is coming right off of what we were just discussing, the summit and the big military parade. China talking about there is a option to NATO and the United States. This may be a directive given by China to Russia. Hey, pursue that coast, pursue the areas around it, and see what the UN does. I think this may be an actual provocation that doesn't come directly from Russia.
Yeah. Yep. I can understand that.
Mike, I got to talk about this one. Just one funny topic today. At Lone Depot Park, a Phillies fan caused a stir when she marched over to her father and demanded the home run ball he'd just given his son. Under pressure, he handed it over. The video blew up online, not just for the ball itself, but for what it exposed. Double standards in public behavior, gender dynamics, and how men often feel forced to back down. Mike, when you see this situation, what's your reaction? Was this just a heated fan moment, or does it point to something deeper in our culture?
Man, I knew we were going to talk about the baseball here today at some point. I just knew that was going to happen. Ah, sigh. Big sigh.
It's got to be now because we're going to get deep today.
Yeah. Well, can I just say one thing, Phil?
Say it. Say it.
When a baseball is hit into the stands, this is just Mike's personal opinion, but if there's a child around, give it to the damn kid. I mean, that's just to me, that's like a no-brainer here. I mean, there was arguments about, okay, having been to a lot of baseball games in my life, and if you're not sitting in the greatest seats, which those guys weren't, right, when it's hit, foul ball way out there into the outfield, it bounces up there. It's a scramble, right? It's a free for all. Who gets to the ball first? People go running. Sometimes they go running 15, 20 chairs over from where they're sitting. Whatever. This is all part of the game. It's been going on for years. So, I guess the only thing I'm going to leave it at this: for the woman to walk across 20 chairs to go after the guy had clearly got the ball, handed it to his son, and then go make a conflict out of this, when I think just about anybody could figure out. I mean, we talked about, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago about that, the kiss cam at the Coldplay concert. You can't do anything nowadays without being on camera, right? And everybody knows that baseball games are broadcast and there's cameras everywhere and they follow every ball that gets hit everywhere. So you got to know you're on camera, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what goes through this woman's mind that makes her want to go after a ball that's been given to this child?
Well, that's the point that I was bringing up. Is we live in a society now where an old lady feels very comfortable running up behind a young man at an event, a sporting event, and basically attacking him.
Now, here's the weird thing about this, Phil. I don't know if you find this funny, because I know you're into conspiracy theories. How come the internet has not figured out who this woman is yet? There was a couple people that they came out with that they thought it was her, and it's turned out it was false. I find it impossible to believe that nobody's outed her. Not a friend, not a neighbor, not somebody that doesn't like her, not somebody that she works for. Like, how are they keeping this under wraps so much? Because if we know one thing about the internet, we know that the internet is a breeding ground of hate, right? So there's people that are just ravenous out there right now that want to know her name and out her and do as much damage to her as possible. So how does it not come out?
I'm gonna make it real easy for you. If you were to guess, what would you think her ideologies are? What persuasion is she, left or right or whatever?
Okay, Philly, now you're just screwing with me. And the reason I say that is because obviously you heard right away that all the memes that came out and everybody that just they immediately targeted her as a left-wing sympathizer, let's just call it.
And the
based
media,
on what? So were they based on, from what I could tell, two things. Well, three things. A woman that didn't appear to be with anybody, her haircut, and her glasses. Is that a fair assessment?
that's what I'm saying. And the media is full of them.
Well, that's a good point. But
I mean, they don't want to eat their own. That's basically it, Mike.
yeah, but I mean, the media is a little bit different entity than, say, TikTokers. I mean, I think it was TikTokers that pretty much identified the kiss cam people almost immediately. It's not very difficult to cross-reference. We've got facial recognition. We got all sorts of stuff nowadays. Come on. So I'm just a little bit surprised at that. It's just,
Well,
yeah.
I'm looking at it from a whole different way, Mike. I'm looking at it as an old man and how, and I'm talking to younger folks. You can't just look at a little old lady and feel safe. You have to judge your actions these days in a very careful way. If you listen to the audio of what she was saying, if there had not been jumbo cams and everything, She was literally telling the guy she had the experience with that something else happened.
Yeah.
So if there were no cameras, the story would have been her story and not his.
Correct.
So, because people were also making fun of him the way he
he was
like
scared.
pulled
Yeah.
right, but he looks like he's a upper middle class dude. He's at a baseball, good seats, right? So he's probably in an office. He's probably had friends lose jobs with minor interactions, questionable interactions with females. So that was probably not even his real response. That was probably his office fake response about things. You know what I mean? I think that was an orchestrated response because he was like, "Let me submit. Let me show I'm not violent." That's what I think that was about. So you have to be careful with your interactions with women these days, or it can go south, especially if there's no camera.
I'd be remiss not to say that the main reason I think that she was targeted immediately as a left-wing sympathizer, if you will, was because she clearly from the video had an unbelievable amount of entitlement.
That's what I was talking about from the beginning. And that's the media.
Yeah.
That's their demographic.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see if that story goes anywhere. I mean, I guess the good news of all of this is the kid got invited. His kid and his sister and the dad got invited back into the locker room, and they got a bunch of balls and bats and stuff and all sorts of things. And then I find it interesting. I don't know if you saw the story. I forget what company it was. Has offered the woman $5,000 if she signs the ball and gives it back to the kid.
She better take that. Funny. That's about because that ball will live down in infamy.
Yeah. I'm gonna bet you right now she's not giving that. She's hiding in her basement.
Well, she's never gonna get a grab bag and invite it to anything, so she better hold on to that ball. That's probably gonna be her greatest moment ever. It's all downhill from here.
Yep.
Mike, we were talking about the Chicago mayor last week and about his efforts, and now you got the Midway Blitz going on, right? Amongst all of that, now we have him telling them we don't want him there. The
National Guard.
We don't want them there. He's written executive orders directing law enforcement not to interact, assist, or help in these actions. Right? And they're supposed to be coming to protect the citizens, right?
Mm-hmm.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is reportedly spending $15 to $20 million on his own security, with more than 150 police officers assigned just to protect him. Now, that's actually a bigger detail than the President of the United States, who has about 100 or less. And here's the kicker. At the same time, he cut the school resource officers, who are police officers, who protect children in Chicago schools, essentially redirecting police protection away from kids and the public and onto himself. He's supposed to be a public servant. So if anyone should sacrifice, shouldn't it be him instead of the people he's sworn to serve? What's your take on the hypocrisy, Mike?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think it's not just the mayor of Chicago. I think it's the governor of Illinois too. He's another one. This is a guy. I don't think there's enough being talked about him either. I mean, this is a multi-billionaire we're talking about, and that I hear that tossed around very often with Donald Trump, obviously, or the oligarchs taking over the country. But look, this is on the other side as well. This is both sides, and I think they're living in fantasy world. And I believe that he's putting himself, the mayor in this case, above everybody else? Absolutely, as I think the governor is doing, as in addition. So, I mean, this is first of all, anytime you're turning down aid to try to fix a problem that your particular city or area legitimately has, That is not in the best interests of the citizens. I mean, just period.
And then you take the resources that we do have to do that and use it all on you.
Right.
Mike, 150 officers?
I know, it's crazy. It's crazy.
You would think that he's like the Pope coming to
Mm-hmm.
a Muslim country or some shit like
Mm-hmm.
that. What?
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's mind-boggling.
There needs to be some kind of law, Mike, a federal law that at any time the citizens, if you get like a 70 something percent or something percent majority, you can recall a officer or a public servant at any time. It's a terrible thing to elect somebody and you basically got to wait till the next election before you have any kind of recourse against them. And then they're not going to go to jail for all the harm they did. There's no payback. There's no getting your money back that was lost. You just lost all around with this guy.
I mean, we could talk about this for probably 4 podcasts in a row. I mean, the problem in general is, once again, is elected officials are self-serving, right? And largely it's being driven by money. And the other problem is incumbents in particular are very difficult to get out of office.
Mm-hmm.
And that's our system is weighted on the fact that once you're in, unfortunately, you can see this in Congress, they're in forever, pretty much, until they either die, drool on themselves, or want to get out. I mean, and that's the reality, and that's a problem.
Mike, we've already talked about this offline. I know you're chomping at the bit. I don't have no monologue. I don't have no question. I'm just going to let you rip.
On
Charlie Kirk.
Oh, gosh, I didn't know we were going to talk about that today.
Right.
I'm kidding. So I got a lot of thoughts on this. This is a big deal. Okay, this is a big deal in America, and the reason it's a big deal is not because of what Charlie Kirk represented or believed in. It's what occurred, why it occurred, and the response to what happened. And let me explain that for a second. So Charlie Kirk, for those of you that don't know him, and there maybe I was actually surprised at watching the media for the last day how many people actually do know who he is. So I didn't realize he was as quote as famous as he is. I would see him occasionally. He'd pop up, largely because, Phil, you and I do the podcast. So this kind of stuff pops up in your news feed, right? And I'm scanning through TikTok, and occasionally Charlie Kirk would pop up. And I don't really have that much of opinion on the guy, to be honest with you. I'd listened to a few of his video or a few of the videos that he's involved in, and it was always, this is what I saw. This is just my take on him. He was obviously extremely well spoken. I just watched an interview actually he did with Bill Maher today. And Bill Maher, for that matter, is very well spoken, and they're two very intelligent guys speaking, right? That obviously don't agree with each other. But what I liked about what I like about Bill Maher and what I kind of liked about Charlie Kirk was that they could have a rational conversation without swearing and yelling and calling people names and all the rest of the stuff. And discuss ideas. I mean, Charlie Kirk's role in life, I guess, was to go to college campuses and try to swing the youth vote towards a very right Christian MAGA belief, right? I mean, I think we could probably all agree that he was one of the reasons that Donald Trump won the presidency and was able to get some of this youth vote, was probably because of Charlie Kirk. Now, I'm not saying I agree with some of his stuff, and for those of you that have been listening from me long enough know that I'm not religious. I think he's way too right of center for my liking. However, The response that I saw after this occurred was mind staggering. And here's the difference. I saw a lot of liberals come up and say, hey, you know, how come this same reaction didn't occur, I don't know, a month or two ago when the woman got shot and killed in Minnesota, I think, the representative. Well, I'm going to tell you why. Because she was not as famous. I mean, I hate to say it that way, but that's not they're making this into a Democrat Republican thing, and the reality is that it's just simply like nobody ever heard of her. A lot of people heard of Charlie Kirk, so it's just a bit more of a news story, and I think that's why it's being talked about more. The problem is that, and I can give you one more example. She was an elected official. She was a lawmaker, somebody that is responsible for setting the laws of the United States of America, right? She happened to be a representative of Minnesota, but she's a state lawmaker. Those people are elected by us, and they're, by the very definition of being elected, they can make change. And I'm never going to justify killing somebody, but I can certainly see killing somebody if you strongly disagree with their belief when they're going to make changes. Charlie Kirk wasn't elected to anything. He had no power to do anything. He's simply stating his viewpoint. So whether you agree with him, disagree with him, or somewhere in the middle, he can't make change, right? He's not an elected guy. He's simply trying to sway public opinion. That's called freedom of speech. Anybody's allowed to do that. And I think where we've made a turning point here is, and to go back to what you were just saying, Phil, about elected officials, particularly the mayor of Chicago, getting security. I hate to say it, we're in a situation where anybody and everybody that is either an elected official, an influencer, in Charlie Kirk's case, he's a famous podcaster. Basically, that's what he's known for. And I got to tell you, Phil, I don't know if you got any of this, but I had 5 different people reach out to me and say, hey, maybe you and Phil should cool it because, you know, you get too big and you get too famous, they're going to be shooting at you next. And I mean, it sounds stupid, but the reality is that, you know, that's pretty much all Charlie Kirk did was be a famous podcaster.
Well said, Mike. The only part that I disagree with is where you just opposed the lady who was she was a public servant who could affect things versus Charlie Kirk who couldn't affect things.
Well,
I would venture to say that specifically those two people, if I were to compare their effectiveness on things and change, his was extremely higher than hers, and she actually got the ability to vote on things. He literally uh he has had he's changed and swayed voters, which has allowed more than one person to be voted in and affect change. So I think that is
I
totally
agree.
not true. I think,
Well, it's legally true, Phil. It's
let me
legally
finish.
true.
I let you go, Mike. Um, so the making the point of like he's less, if you made the point of basically if you were going to go down that road, it would be someone who actually affects you. So in my eyes, using your logic, he would be the more logical person to be attacked because he definitely has more effect. He's the things I just explained, and you had the president just yesterday send out a thing saying he was one of his greatest allies. If you follow politics and not just modern politics, but throughout history, different governments or whatever, oftentimes the actual king, queen, dictator, or whatever is not the person truly making changes and affecting things. It's his parliament, it's his advisors, it's his courtiers. So to to just totally eradicate that part, I don't accept that part. Now,
Oh, I'm not.
well, you specifically
Well,
said,
yes, but I meant from a legal standpoint. I mean, but using that same example, Phil, you and I can affect change too. Anybody that has a voice that's being listened to.
but not the same, Mike. We're talking about a person who has the backing of the party, the backing of
Yes.
people in high office. He's has access to events to speak.
Well,
it ain't close to the.
he's one of the most powerful people in the quote MAGA movement.
Yeah,
I'm not denying that. I was just using it as an example where you can't compare the two of them together. I mean,
I just did.
yeah, but that comparison well, but the Democrats are using that as a comparison why nobody talked about her. Well, you just proved why they didn't talk about her because he's way bigger.
Well, again, using just everything we've said so far, the reason why his story was bigger is come on, Mike. They pick and choose the one that's either the best story. So, like you said, yeah, more people know who he is. It's a hotter thing. We got all of this video of it. That has a lot to do with it too. They got video they haven't even shown you yet. That's another reason. And the party that's in power now, he was aligned with them, and this is a great tool.
I think it's another thing. Let's talk about going forward. This makes the Trump party way stronger. Way stronger.
And that's the only point that I have about this is that the hateful, despicable, disgusting, low people who had something to do with this and people who think it's right, after all is said and done, if you think that you've eliminated him from speaking an ideology that goes against something that you think or believe, you made him. He's going to be historically probably one of the biggest martyrs in the first 25 years of this century. He's going to be one of the.
Sure.
He's going to be like 25 years from now when we'll be at 2050, right? And they're going to be all kind of historical shows and lists made about the top 10 figures and the biggest stories. And he's going to be one of the top 10 stories of this century.
Yep.
So you didn't even achieve what you call yourself trying to do by eliminating him. You've literally propagated it. You've literally made it like times a million, times a billion. So,
because two things happen here.
You're a piece of shit, and what you're doing didn't work.
Yeah, and like I said, yes, agreed. Because two things are happening here, Phil. One is that he's becoming a martyr, but probably even more significantly is that it bringing out, they're falling for it. The people that are quote anti him, whatever category you choose to call them or put them in, are showing ugliness, and ugliness is always going to lose. And we saw that just in the first 24 hours on social media. There were literally people that were like posting videos that were excited that he got shot, and all this nonsense from some of these people with big followings. Look at the guy on MSNBC got fired last night. That had, when he got shot, before they knew he even was dead, had posted negative stuff about him. Even MSNBC couldn't take it. So
like do you remember Tom and Jerry and
cartoon?
The Road Runner? Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Road Runner. Those cartoons had a hard time making it to television back in the day because there was a majority who felt like there was too much violence in in those cartoons and that kids couldn't handle it and stuff like that. We have slowly chipped away decade by decade on what the bar is for what's violent, what our eyes can handle, what we emote about. And we have reached a point, and we reached that point way back in the 90s, where now death is talked about like it's not even death. The awe of it, the respect of it, everything about death has been totally desensitized. And I find it very disgusting.
Well, I tell you what, I was this happened by accident yesterday, but I was outside because we were having a really bad thunderstorm here, and I came in. I happened to click on my phone and see if I had any messages, and TikTok popped up, and I saw a video that was taken down moments later, but I saw the original video that was posted of him getting shot. And this was about an hour and a half, 2 hours before they announced that he had died. When I watched that video, I can assure you that he was dead. Because the original video that I saw was up close. He got hit, and I mean, to say that blood shot out the side of his neck was a gross understatement.
It looked like something from Kill Bill.
Yeah, exactly. It looked like a Kill Bill, like a cartoon. And there was zero question in my mind that guy was dead immediately. And it took him about 2 hours to announce it, but that got taken down very quickly, that video. But it goes to what you're saying, Phil. I mean, we are so numb to this at this point. And there were a couple comments that I saw online. It's like, yeah, what you saw. And what his wife, unfortunately, his wife and child were sitting about 15 feet away from him. And somebody posted, with all due respect, I agree with you on this, that this is unfortunately what children see in a school when their friends get shot. And this is a real problem. And obviously every time something like this happens, we get into the gun debate, we get into right versus left, we get into the politics, who's inciting violence. We get into all this nonsense. But as you know, nothing happens. There's never a solution. And this is where we've ended up. So, I sent you a text yesterday. I mean, I hate to say this out loud, but, and I know I was not like, I'm not looking to come back to America right now. I'm being completely honest there. I feel bad for you guys in the United States right now because it's a fucking shitstorm. And
go ahead.
No, I mean, I don't know what to say, but like, it's not a pleasant place. I mean, you've got, and I know this is controversial to say, but like, look, and I said this, and I'll monitor it down a little bit, but like, until you get the right wing religious whack jobs, and get them out of quote mainstream government or mainstream influencing, and likewise you get the transgender loving fucknuts on the other side, you're fucked. I mean, these two sides are both really wrong. Like really wrong.
We're going to look back at this time where it was the Puritans versus Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah.
And nothing in between. And the majority of the people are in between.
And that's my point. Like, you got most people are caught in between this. Unfortunately, you've got, based on my social media this morning, I'm going to, what, Phil, I think next week I'm going to start calling out names on the podcast.
No,
I'm actually, I'm going to put names in there because I defriended a bunch of people on Instagram and Facebook this morning that posted things. And by the way, I defriend people if I hear you talking nonsense, and even if I agree with it. I like anybody that spouts. If you go to anybody's social media page and 89 to 95% of their page is politics, they're fucked up. There's something mentally deranged and wrong with you. There's just something wrong with you.
So let's get in.
fundamentally wrong with you. Okay.
So
And
let,
I'm going to start calling them out. I'm going to put their names on our podcast and it's going to go out to 75,000 people. And you know what? Good for you. You can be like the baseball woman. But like what I'm getting at here is these are the mainstream middle people get involved in the argument. Okay. So you've got, the people I'm not going to say his name right now, but there's one guy I defriended. That's all he posts is political bullshit on his Facebook. He's not a politician. He's not part of one side or the other that far. He's got beliefs that agree with the one side, but he's just spouting and respouting shit that he hears. All he's doing is reposting. I mean, I'm sure you have these people in your life too. They just repost stuff that somebody else said. And it isn't accomplishing anything. It obviously contributes to incitement of violence and incitement of making people angry and getting animated, because anybody that's on the other side, see, I'm a weirdo. I get animated and angry even when I'm on your side, because I'm just like, stop. You're not helping anything here. Like, even if I agree with you, I don't want to hear it, because you're not changing anybody's opinion. You just simply are not. Like, nobody on Facebook has ever gone, oh, geez, I hated Donald Trump, but now, I think I'm going to like him now. You got a point there. No, nobody's doing that. Phil, you're right. You see, you got me all riled up here.
Mike,
I'm calling people out, though.
We got mass shootings, school shootings, and now a shooting at Evergreen High School in Colorado that left one dead, 2 others injured.
Same day.
Correct. Along with the killing of right-wing conservative influencer Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University, have once again forced America to confront its mental health crisis. We don't have insane asylums anymore. Mental health care is limited, and the answer for most people is a prescription bottle. What happened to just calling someone crazy and treating them accordingly? Mike, is this bigger picture about left versus right, guns, or is it really about the state of mental health in our society? Because this is going on every week, bro.
This is totally mental health. This has got nothing to do with guns. I mean, look, America has a problem with mental health. You can argue America has a problem with guns too, but the reality is without the mental health problem, guns are guns, right? I mean, I have guns. I own guns. I'm not shooting anybody. So, I mean, that isn't the problem. The problem is that, and by the way, if you look at most of these crimes that are being committed, the guns are being acquired legally. In many cases they're going through checks and background checks and whatnot. So obviously this is, there are systems in place to prevent some of this. It's not working because of this mental health thing. But I would argue that a lot of the mental health comes from this very vocal, I would have called it a vocal minority, but I'm almost wanting to call it a vocal majority at this point. A lot of mental health comes from listening to social media. I mean, I spent, after the Charlie Kirk thing, I spent an hour, scrolling through my social media, and you'll get people on both sides spouting hate.
So, Mike, I think it's mental health too. But I have a very politically incorrect thought process about it.
Okay.
The way the politics are run now, if you say anything about mental health, then you're either all the way on the left and you're all into therapy and drugs and all of that, or you're
covering the problem.
You're all the way on the right where you're totally against all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I'm coming from, Mike. When I was growing up, and you may have had this experience too, you had a buddy who had a little brother or a little sister that you heard about and that you'd see sometimes, but you were never allowed to interact with. They were kept in the house or they were kept on the farm or whatever the case
Yeah.
may
Weirdos.
be. There was a time that when you were in school, in a very short period of time, if you had accumulated a certain amount of F's and non-passing grades, and you showed that on Iowa basic test scores and stuff like that, you had low comprehension skills or like that, all of a sudden you were in a completely different classroom, if not another school. Mike, there was a time where when people did certain things that were illogical, but you knew the person was a functioning human being, we just simply said that person is crazy. We have walked away from words like crazy, retarded, mentally incapable, all of these type of words. What I'm getting to is we used to have a time where if you showed that you weren't at a certain mental maturity and ability, you were called out of the group.
Yep.
And we were allowed to be safe and we were allowed to progress now. But the typical person now, whether it's their neighbor or somebody in a cubicle next to them, that person may be that crazy person that used to not you'd never see or have to interact with. That person has with the new modern medicine, they've been prescribed things for their behaviors and things like that, but they're still a crazy person. We have a lot of crazy people amongst us, and that's a new thing. And when I say a new thing, I'm talking about in the last maybe 30 years. And I think it's a mental issue, but not just where we need to take care of these people. Yes, we need to take care of these people, but they need to not, the effort to integrate them into our society sounds good. It's a beautiful thing, but it's a safety issue. Because all of these killings week after week after week after week, I don't care if you believe in their ideologies or not. The idea that I'm going to take your life for it, that's a crazy person. That's an insane person. All of this violence, the attacking a police officer for doing his job, that's a crazy person. Joining a gang and rampaging a city, that's a crazy person. We need to bring back crazy and insane asylums. What say thee?
I mean, unfortunately, this is to bring up Star Trek. This is like the opposite of Spock here. It's the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the many. That's the way that our society has moved towards, and particularly on the left, I think that's their motto, right? So we've got to society has to revolve around the need of one. If there's one person that needs to be pulled up, we have to sacrifice everybody for that. And that's completely opposite of like the theory of evolution from Darwin. I mean, it should work the other way around. So what we're doing is we're catering to every single issue, every single human, every single person that you just deemed to be potentially crazy or should be an insane asylum, God forbid. What if? There's that big, the left in particular likes to use this. What if we could rehabilitate that person? What if, we can't give up on the one, so
I don't think you should give up on them. I don't think I'm not saying go back to the old way of an insane asylum and lock them up basically and abuse them. That's why we don't have them anymore, basically, because that's what would happen. But I'm saying separate them, keep them in a safe environment, and attempt to rehabilitate them.
Phil, we
Treat
couldn't
them.
even do that. We couldn't even do that during COVID. Think about this. We could not even take the people that were at risk and potentially would be affected by the COVID virus and put them a separate and put them in a restrictive area to make sure they were safe. What did we have to do? We had to put the entire world in it. So this is the problem. This is a fundamentally I think it's a fundamentally American thing at this point where like you said, it's become virtually illegal to say somebody is mentally deranged or handicapped in some way, or God forbid, you can't. I mean,
Every time there's some kind of shooting at a job where the guy shoots up everybody, they talk to the workers, and oftentimes they were like, yeah, he was different. Yeah, we knew something was wrong. Some people were worried. Sometimes they even fired the guy because they thought that he would shoot up the place, and he did when he came back.
Yep. But nobody opened up their mouth because everybody's afraid to say anything because it's not politically correct.
Mm-hmm.
And that's scary scenario. So where are we today? Let's analyze where we've ended up. We've just ended up with, by your own admission, one of the leading people in the Donald Trump MAGA world got assassinated. And if you don't think that that's going to change politics in America going forward, if you're listening to this podcast, you are out of your mind, because that is going to be a significant turning point, and not to use the pun, that was his name of his organization, Turning Point, right? But it's a turning point in a sense that I think either one of two things is going to happen. It's going to get even worse. What you and I just talked about for the last 10 minutes, it's going to get even worse, or we're going to somehow reflect and make some significant changes. I
think it's going to get worse.
I agree. I don't. Nobody's willing. Yeah, because nobody's willing. Look, shit. People aren't even willing to have a dialogue on Facebook. So if you think they're going to have a dialogue in Congress, or you think they're going to have a dialogue, look. All I saw yesterday as an example of this was how Charlie Kirk was. What were the words used? I mean, I copied some of them down. You know, they were polarizing and blah 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 and all this stuff. Well, I tend to disagree a little bit. I mean, polarizing is a strong is he didn't do it in a flagrant in your face way. He was if you listen to him, he's super
Your
calm.
style has nothing to do with being polarizing.
What's that?
Your style has nothing to do with being polarizing.
He wasn't. I guess what I'm trying to get at is he wasn't bombastic. He was. Look, I can see people saying that about Trump more. Trump is in your face, right? The guy is in your face, says some crazy shit. Charlie Kirk might say crazy shit, but he made it sound less crazy, I guess is the best way I could say it. He tried to give, and in some cases, some of it was bullshit, but he tried to give realistic data behind what he said. Okay.
Let me be clear. I'm not saying he wasn't articulate. I wasn't saying that he wasn't good at debate. I'm not even getting into whether he's on the right side or the wrong side of any issue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But by definition, he wasn't like almost polarizing. He is the definition. Polarizing means to cause something, especially something that contains different peoples or opinions, to divide into two completely opposing groups. He's polarizing by definition. Trump is polarizing. Biden is polarizing. Barack is
okay,
polarizing.
but isn't that the problem at this point? Who's not polarizing?
Well,
name somebody that's not polarizing.
I agree with that, but you're saying like they misnomered him, and I think that's on the money.
I get why people on, say, the politically left or progressive movement would not like Charlie Kirk. Okay, I'm not stupid. I understand why they wouldn't like him. What
So
he
it's
backs, what he supports.
polarizing.
Okay, I'll go with you on that. But there's a difference between. So I'm reading some of the things that people wrote
Yeah,
online.
that I feel like, and I understand, and I empathize and sympathize with you. I understand you're looking at the hate given to
Yes.
him, and you are, because of that hate, you're like looking at actual truths and
Well,
just
well, no. There's a difference
because it can be
between.
both.
Well, hold
They
on,
are
but
they are
but Phil, there's a difference between spewing hate for the sake of spewing it and what he was doing. Like
I
he's
agree.
yeah, and that's the problem. So there's I'm putting people into two different categories here. So I agree. So Donald Trump's polar. Let's go with that. Donald Trump's polarizing. Uh, Alexandria Cortez, Ocasio-Cortez is polarizing, right? They're on
Absolutely.
opposite sides, but they're not spewing pure hate necessarily. Whereas somebody that's hit their visceral response to Donald Trump is he's a fucking orange man. He's a rapist. He's a child raper. That's spewing hate. Okay.
I
That's not
agree.
the same thing. And likewise on the AOC thing or we talked about the Talib person in Minnesota or wherever who, you and I both came out and said basically we feel like she's a foreign she's this shy of being a foreign terrorist. I mean, she came from whatever, Afghanistan and or Ethiopia, wherever the hell she came from. She's barely American. So, but even she's not spewing hate. The
I
people that
agree.
are having a response to her are like, I want to kill her because she's a Muslim. Okay, that's spewing hate. There's a difference.
I believe that what we're discussing, two things can be happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
These can be totally despicable people saying and doing despicable things, but that does not mean that Charlie Kirk was just this divine person.
Oh no, for sure. I agree with that. Absolutely not.
Because that's something I want to get into is um, I think that there's going to be a changing of how events and protests go at colleges. I'm thinking you're going to see an immediate change where people who are polarizing, no matter what side they're on, if they are a polarizing figure, they won't be invited to campuses. I think that it'll be hard to ensure events now with people who are considered polarizing figures.
I mean, I heard somewhere that they had a total of 6 police officers stationed to that event, which seems ludicrously under security, right? I mean, with the amount of people that were there, that seems crazy to me. You got to realize that he was on a campus, and he tends to, and a lot of these guys, and he's not the only one, by the way. A lot of these guys that go to these campuses tend to go to campuses that are heavily skewed in their favor. So you got to realize he was in Utah on an extremely religious campus, anyways. Where
That's why they had only 6 police because they thought everything was good.
Probably true.
But something about that, even Mike, you're exactly right. Some of them do strategically pick locations where the populace is for them.
Yeah,
I agree with that. But I watch a lot of these.
Mm-hmm.
The majority do the complete opposite of that. And that's the whole game plan.
Yeah.
I'm a right-wing person and I'm going to go to this liberal event and ask people questions about Trump.
Oh yeah. You see it on social media all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm trying not to go down this road because I have a respect for the dead. But he was part of that machine of where they went to places to prick the bear. Yes, it was debate. Yes, he was calm, but he's part of the strategy because he's also a content creator.
Oh yeah, That, by the way, just so people understand that was his number one thing in life. Was he's a content creator, first and foremost, a podcaster and a content creator in the social media YouTube world. So you have to see that as the backing here. So that's where his and by the way, his wife has a podcast as well. So that family is very much, and she went to, I can go on and on. She went to Liberty University and all this stuff. I mean, these are Liberty University is so far right that it's barely on planet Earth. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I understand, bro. Charlie Kirk is from Chicago. I know, like I said, I'm not here to disparage the man. The man should not have lost his life.
Right.
And there are very few things where, in my mind, I'm okay with the outcome of the person being dead. Mm-hmm. It's in certain self-defense, not all, certain self-defense. And that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, taking a shot from 200 yards away is it's a kill shot. I mean, that's no bueno, no matter what. I get it. Oh, and I agree with you, Phil. By the way, his purpose was to stir the pot. Okay,
absolutely,
which is very much like any successful YouTuber, quite frankly, or podcaster for that matter. He's not much different than, say, a Joe Rogan. I mean, he's really not. I mean, that's how you get an audience. We don't sit here on the Random Waypoints to talk about, how many games of ping pong we played earlier today, and that we're going to go have some afternoon tea together, because you guys would tune us the fuck out immediately. You want to hear us say something that you can take back to your living room and go, man, that guy Phil, he fucking crazy. Did you hear what he just said? I mean, come on. Let's
for some reason they say that about me whether I'm talking or not.
I know. That's right. And I get it. To go back to what I addressed before, where people that listen to this podcast reached out to me and say, hey, are you guys worried at all? And I try to explain, I mean, I guess to some extent, no matter how big or small you are, the fact of life today is that all of us need to worry to some extent about everything. I may be no different than the guy I was just talking about that was spewing what I'm going to consider to be hatred on Facebook. Eventually, somebody is going to get pissed off enough at that guy. And he's not a podcaster and he's not a social media guy, but somebody is going to read his shit similar to me today and go, this guy's fucked up. I'm going to go take him out. And that, by the way, I hate to say it, is reality. So for me to think that, because I just, 3 weeks ago I said that it was the fault of every, I probably said, I don't know how, maybe I shouldn't say it again. What were we talking about? The ugly white women. I mean, probably one of them's going to knock me off, but the reality is I mean, I'm joking about this, but there's some truth to it no matter what. And in his case, I would agree. Let's go back to Charlie Kirk. If you gave me a list 2 weeks ago of, if you asked me who are the 5 people in the United States I think have the most chance of being assassinated, I probably would have put him on the list.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I would have had him like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, probably not number one.
At the top, but he definitely wouldn't have been at the bottom.
Right. So what all that speaks to really is what we've talked about as a theme on this podcast a lot: the power of words and social media in particular, particularly if you're a creator, is strong. And you said it best in your argument against me, Phil. The reason that it matters so much about the Charlie Kirk thing is because he was so powerful and way more famous and way more divisive than that woman in Minnesota that I don't even know what her name is. And there's a reason for that. So So the moral of the story is the bigger you get, the more danger you're in. I mean, look, number one on my list would be Donald Trump, right? There's nobody in the world that I could think of that you'd want to get assassinated more than Donald Trump. I mean, I'm sure there's a zillion people out there that want to do that, right?
And that's probably heightened times a billion since yesterday.
I agree. Because now he just became even stronger.
Security.
Yeah.
So, Mike, check this out. I believe that mainstream media is going to change, and yesterday forced it to change. Charlie Kirk's assassination showed us two worlds colliding: the cautious coverage of traditional media that chose not to air the shooting itself, and the unfiltered reality of social media, where millions instantly watched graphic videos from every angle. Mike, has the gatekeeping power of news outlets been completely broken by platforms like X, TikTok, and YouTube?
Yep, I got almost all of my information yesterday from Chris Cuomo. What's the girl, the blonde chick that used to be on Fox News?
I watched her. I know.
Yeah, all those. Yeah, I can't remember her name, but basically, I got my news from TikTok, X, online podcasts, Joe Rogan, all these people that absolutely. And yeah, we saw every angle, every bullet shot, every stuff. I mean, before they said anything, I had already seen the guy standing on the roof. I saw a video of a guy on the roof. The mainstream media, CNN, Fox News, way behind the story.
And for people who don't know how media works, especially mainstream media, I'm talking about across the board, whatever you see on celestial TV, it's not like in the olden days where people had those clicker boxes and say, I watched this and I watched that. They know in detail your actions on social media. So what they're seeing is that people tuned in to CNN, ABC, CBS, and 10 seconds later are clicking away, going to somewhere else because they're not getting what they want, and they got it from somewhere else.
By the way, that's so using me as an example, when I came in from outside yesterday, I looked at my phone, and the very first thing I saw was a graphic video of Charlie Kirk getting shot with blood shooting out the side of his neck. And I immediately, because this is me, I immediately was like, oh shit, that must be AI. So what did I do? I clicked on CNN because I wanted to confirm this, because I was like, come on, that must be fake. And CNN hadn't run shit yet. It wasn't even on their front page. And I clicked around a little bit. I went on to X, and then it said, yep, Charlie Kirk's been shot, condition unknown. So I was like, oh, shit, he got shot. And then I was debating whether or not, is that video I saw, was that him getting shot? Because if it is, he's dead. And if it's not, if it was AI, then, maybe it was AI. But I'm like, could anybody come up with AI that fast? And I'm like, so anyways, it turns out it was a real video. But that goes to show you the mainstream media's days, in my opinion, completely over, because I wanted to tune in to listen to Chris Cuomo or all those guys, because look, they can talk like we can talk. They speak uncensored. They don't have to wait for, some 8 guys in their news studio to give the okay thumbs up that you can now say this and get it confirmed by 17 different camera angles and all the rest of the stuff. They can just do it. And that's what you saw.
Even the people that you're mentioning, though, they are kind of what I call retreads of media. What I'm referring to is, like, for instance, with me yesterday, I ended up listening to a guy who did like a 4-hour live during the event. He was originally just covering the event, and it turned into all of that. And it flipped into like bigger news because of obviously what happened. And then he just went on and was like, hey, I have a buddy that used to work in the FBI. He got him on there. Then he was like, hey, I got another buddy. And this is just a regular dude. And he was literally talking about whether this was an assassination, was it a pro shot? And he had everything broken down that it took them 24 hours to do. And this was
Yep.
just a Joe Smo.
Yep. And that was similar to what I saw because the initial video that I saw was taken by an Arizona, like a small town newspaper that was actually there in the front row filming it exactly what you just described, the whole thing, just being there to film the whole thing and happened to stumble upon this.
Yeah, because a piece of footage that they've shown a million times, but I haven't heard nobody comment on it. But I heard it commented by a YouTuber like 5 minutes after it happened. People were running out and they were trying to go out this exit. And then there was police saying, no, no,
Yep.
no, 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 because they were trying to shuffle Charlie Kirk
Yep.
out.
Yep.
Kirk already had the sheet on top
Yep.
of him.
Yeah, he was covered. He was dead.
But, and he said the guy on YouTube did just what you said. Oh, he's definitely dead. They've got him, covered over his head. But it was hours later.
Oh, hours.
Before they confirmed him being dead.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that I think, and that's just the reality of where we are today in society. That we talk about it all the time. The future is amateurs, for lack of better terms. I mean, it's people that are on scene wherever the scene might happen to be. And like you said, a lot of these people, you've got two layers of retreads, right? You've got the former celebrities that used to be with the networks that now are on their own podcasts, their own little shows on X. They're kind of retreading without censorship. And then you've got the big networks that are just dinosaurs that are, with the whole kit and caboodle. But they're, I saw yesterday, I don't know if this is being talked about today, but I saw way back right when it happened, somebody had suggested that the bullet actually bounced off of, he was wearing a bulletproof vest and deflected off his chest and then into his neck. Don't know. I don't know. I have not heard. I don't even know if that's in mainstream media right now. I don't know if that's the case or not, but
I don't think that happened. But if that turned out to be what happened, that sounds reasonable.
yeah, but it'd be interesting to note if indeed he was wearing a bulletproof vest, though. That would be interesting from a psychological perspective, because then you start to wonder, okay, well, if he was wearing a bulletproof vest, how come there was only 6 cops there, and how come there was not better? How come there wasn't bulletproof? You know what I mean? Like then you start wondering, like, huh?
It also makes me question how high this goes up, because then that means this guy was an exceptional shooter. He knew the guy had on a vest and he knew to hit him right in that artery. And from everything that I'm seeing, he didn't wait to see, did he get the shot off? This guy knew he got the shot off. He was like a pro, man. It was like watching a movie.
And it was one shot.
That's what I'm saying. It was like a movie. Bang, pack up, hit the road. They still haven't found him to this point.
Now I'm looking live here, and remember, you guys, we record on Thursday, but it says they've just delayed the news conference over.
Mike, you're
They haven't
frozen
said
up.
They
Repeat
whoops.
that, you froze up.
Oh, sorry. It says that I'm looking at it live here. It says delayed news conference, so maybe they found the guy. Rapid developments in the Charlie Kirk investigation. They did find the high-powered rifle that was used, and early reports from the non-mainstream media suggest that the bullets and gun were engraved political statements. I'll leave it at that.
So,
Which, by the way, I would expect. I mean, who else would shoot him?
so Mike, again, we had the school shooting and we had Charlie Kirk. For weeks and weeks and weeks, I've been just rattling off to you mass shootings, and they ain't just regular mass shootings. They seem to always be directed toward power. Are you starting to see what I'm seeing, or am I still crazy and a conspiracy theorist?
Oh, I see what you're saying. This is, but the problem is it a conspiracy or is it simply the state of America? I mean, I could tell you that it's the
Oh,
State of
I'm
the
only
Union
calling it
address.
a conspiracy theorist because, not to pat myself on the back, I be ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff, Mike. And until people catch up to the curve, I'm considered a conspiracy theorist.
That's true. I think you're onto something. That's what I would say.
And I told you that, you remember, I keep saying, I was like, there's going to be a tipping point. I believe this is that tipping point. I thought we were maybe we were going to make it to the end of the summer. Well, this is the end of the summer. Yeah.
It's the end of the summer. Well, think about this. Who think about this for 1 second, and then we can move on, I guess, and maybe we're probably at the end anyways. Charlie Kirk was largely speaking to the younger audience, younger generation. So this assassination has definitely woken up that generation. And what that means, we're going to find out. But it I think that you could say before maybe they were sleeping on the job a little bit. They have that younger generation, is struggles with voter turnout and with, being involved just in general in society and voting and politics and whatnot. And obviously he was trying to change that. I think this probably is going to fire up likely both sides
So
in that generation.
I'm gonna say a bold statement, Mike. And some people aren't gonna like the comparison that I'm about to make.
Okay.
I believe that this just made Charlie Kirk, this generation's, and I'm talking about white people, this generation's Dr. Martin Luther King for white folks.
Could very well be. Yep. I can see the correlation there for sure.
He has enough sound bites and speeches that they don't have to edit or whatever, that they can put out and they can totally. He's going to come out looking way better than he did when he was living.
Oh yeah, yeah.
His name is basically eternal now.
Yeah, and I do agree. I think he's going to become more popular because I think while he was alive, he was certainly, you could argue, less popular because of his polarizing view and everything. It's interesting being down here in Mexico.
Just quickly, Mike, because people will be like, I can't believe Black Phil had the nerve to say Martin Luther King. And just like I'm old enough to know that Martin Luther King at the time, when he was living, everybody wasn't
super popular.
Everybody act like it now, like everybody was on his side, but that's not true. And not even all Black folks.
That's right.
But amongst us, we all got to say that we was all.
Right. Yeah, but I completely understand what you're saying. That's totally true. And by the way, I was actually surprised. Not that we're stuck on black and white here or anything, but there was a big statement. There were a lot. I was actually surprised how many people of color were involved and supporting Charlie Kirk. I was actually shocked by that. One of the first statements I saw come out, it's in front of me right here, was because I copied a bunch of stuff that people were making comments on and saying nasty things. One of the main guys came out really early yesterday was Lamar Jackson, quarterback for the Baltimore, was talking about it, and I was like, wow. I mean, wouldn't have called him a Charlie Kirk guy, but hey, what do I know?
I'm gonna say something. I'm trying to get us canceled today, Mike. I'm trying to figure out something, but I'm about to speak for all Black people because we're a monolith. And I want to be specific. When I say Black people, it's different than what you mean by Black people. You just pretty much mean everybody that kind of has a certain color tone and may have DNA from Africa, whether they came here as an immigrant or whether they came here some other way. Okay, amongst us, black people means me. It don't mean people who came from the Caribbean or or immigrants or stuff like that. Black people want to move on. We want to get past our history.
Yeah.
We want to move on. When you hear like different people in the media, commentators and stuff like that, that look like me but aren't me, they're generally like, what's her name? Joy Reid.
Oh, Joy Reid, yeah.
Joy Reid is an immigrant.
Yeah.
And on and on. If you go through all of the people who you are thinking that are black, that we as black people don't consider black,
yeah,
they're not from here. And they have, so it's not weird or unexpected to me because I know the mindset. The people who do talk like that, because there were some that were on social media, they're almost all not foundational black Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not familiar with that word, it's people who can trace their history back to the beginnings of this.
Yep.
Most of us are conservative, even if we are a Democrat. Most of us have always wanted the immigration shut down. Most of us are more conservative than white people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I agree with that. I see that. Yep. Yeah, I was going to mention, since I'm down in Mexico, this story actually got a lot of traction down here, more than I expected, and I was surprised at how many Mexicans. Maybe I shouldn't have been as surprised because Mexicans are extremely religious based and conservative, but there was a lot of Charlie Kirk support here in Mexico. So just want to mention that, just for if everybody was thinking it was just a bunch of Bible Belt thumpers.
Just like we look at other countries and show our respect, it's pretty much mutual. Upstanding citizens of their countries usually have upstanding morals, thoughts, and views about things. That's one of the issues I have with America. We have allowed the worst of us, whether it's culturally, ideologically, or whatever, have too much power and too much say about things where it should just be obvious. Hey, that's the right thing to do. Let's do that. So it's some things that, no, there's no debate. This is bad. This is good. We should just do that.
Yeah. That's
Mike, you got anything else you want to say?
Man, there was a lot of stuff, but as usual, somehow we managed to get through over an hour of random waypoints. So what can I tell you guys?
All right, guys, you know what I'm going to say. Stay safe, tread lightly, and hopefully we'll see you here or on a trail soon.
You have been listening to Waypoint Overland's Random Waypoints. Like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.